Welcome, fellow adventurers of Baldur's Gate and the Forgotten Realms. Games like Baldur's Gate 3, or rule systems like Dungeons and Dragons in general, can seem overwhelmingly complex to newcomers. Now in this video, I will explain to you how the general game system of Baldur's Gate 3, and to some extent, that of Dungeons and Dragons works as well. I will start with character creation and attributes, and work my way from there to skills and checks to the combat system. Now without further ado, let's get into the video. In classic pen and paper role-playing games like Dungeons and Dragons, pretty much everything is controlled by dice. These dice have a certain number of sides that determine the outcome of a roll and are often specified using a format such as 1d20. The 1 stands for the number of times rolled, D for dice, and a 20 for the range of possible numbers that can be rolled. In this example, 1 to 20. It is therefore a dice with 20 sides, each with a single number. Another common term used is DC, which stands for difficulty class. If you want to beat a DC 14 check, you either must roll a 14 or reach this 14 by a lower roll plus possible bonuses. For an example, a roll of 9 and plus 6 bonus. A character in Baldur's Gate 3, as well as in Dungeons and Dragons, has 6 attributes. These are Strength, Dexterity, Constitution, Intelligence, Wisdom and Charisma. They all have a value of 1 to 20 in Baldur's Gate 3, with a few exceptions of course, and reflect how well a character can hold their own in one of the respective attributes. During character creation, you can raise these values to a maximum of 15. In addition, you can increase one attribute with a bonus of +1 and another with +2, each to 16 and 17. Now a value of 10 represents the neutral starting point of a character. For every 2 points a character invests in one of the attributes, he receives either a bonus or a malus of 1. A character with a strength of 8 has a -1 malus, while a strength of 10 causes no modifier at all, and strength of 12 +1 modifier. In addition, your character has a list of skills that represent specific actions within the game. These are based on the modifiers of the character's attributes. For example, if you have a strength of 12 and therefore a modifier of +1, you will have an athletics value of +1, because athletics is a strength skill. Within the list of skills, depending on which class you choose, you can select a different set of skills in which your character is proficient. This grants the additional proficiency modifier of your character when using the respective skill. In Baldur's Gate 3, this ranges from 2 up to +4. You start at level 1 with a bonus of +2, and this increases to +3 at level 5 and +4 at level 9. Some classes, such as the Rogue, also have the option of choosing expertise for some skills in which they are already proficient, which then doubles this bonus. You need these skills for so-called skill checks. For example, if you want to find out more about certain things in a game, you roll in the respective skills area and try to reach a certain value. For example, if you want to find out more about a certain situation, you roll an investigation check. So if it has a difficulty class DC of 10, you need to roll at least a 10 on your investigation intelligence check. If you have an intelligence of 10 and therefore no modifier, you must also roll a 10. If you are proficient in investigation and have a bonus of +2, you only must roll an 8 and receive the remaining points through your bonus. There are 2 exceptions to this rule. The rolled so-called natural 1 always represents a critical failure, and the natural 20 always represents a critical success. This means that regardless of the required difficulty class DC, your roll is either a failure or a success. Natural at this point means that the number of your die is either a 1 or a 20. So if you roll a 2 and have a modifier of -1, your result is a 1, but not necessarily a failure, as long as the DC only requires a 1. If the DC is, say, 15 and you roll a net 1 but have a +10 bonus, you would still fail the roll. The same is true if you roll, say, a 18 and have a modifier of +2, your result is therefore a 20 but not a critical success. But if you face a high DC of, let's say, 30 but only have a modifier of +6, your only way to win this roll is by rolling the net 20, which is a critical success. Your background also grants you proficiency in 2 skills. Furthermore, your background determines what type of behavior your character receives inspiration on. If you choose a charlatan background, for example, you will often be rewarded with inspiration if you behave a little sneaky to gain access to certain things. An inspiration in Baldur's Gate 3 means you can repeat a failed skill check with it. In classic Dungeons & Dragons rules, an inspiration usually grants advantage on a particular roll. Advantage means that a particular die check is rolled twice and the better of the 2 rolls is used, while disadvantage means that the worse of the 2 is used for the result. In Baldur's Gate 3, your choice of character race does not affect your attributes. However, it does affect various other things, such as your movement speed, what weapons and armor you are proficient with, resistances to effects and damage, whether you can see in the dark, and so on. Now, proficiency with weapons and armor means that you can use them without any special restrictions. For example, if you use a weapon that you are not proficient in, you will not get your proficiency bonus added to an attack roll, and you may not benefit from all of the abilities that the weapon might have to offer. You can use it, however. Now, if you use an armor class that you are not proficient in, you will have disadvantage on attack rolls and will not be able to cast spells. The type of armor and weapons you are proficient with is determined by your choice of class and race. As you progress in the game, you can also learn additional proficiencies by choosing talents, if you wish so. Each character also has an armor class, which decides whether they are hit by an attack roll or not. This has a neutral initial value of 10. Each additional point in the dexterity skill modifier increases this by 1. Additionally, putting on armor can increase this value. Example: a character with an initial neutral value of 10 puts on simple armor with an armor value of 11. This now overrides the neutral value of 10, and he has an armor value of 11 as long as he wears the respective armor. In addition, the character also has a dexterity of 14 or 15, which grants a modifier of +2. This increases the character's armor class from 11 to 13 points. While a medium or heavy armor normally grants more armor value, it also limits or even removes the bonus through dexterity. If the above-mentioned character puts on a medium height armor, which has an armor value of 13, and grants a maximum dexterity bonus of +2, he has an armor value of 15. If he were to increase his dexterity to 16 and thus receive a modifier of +3, he would still have an armor value of 15. In the simple armor, however, he would now have 14 instead of 13 points of armor value, as this does not restrict his bonus. If the character were to put on heavy armor with a base value of 16, which does not allow a bonus through dexterity, he would also have the armor value of 16 and would not increase it further through his dexterity. The same principle applies to attack rolls and weapons. If a character is proficient with a weapon, he also receives the proficiency modifier on his attack roll. Weapons are also divided into two categories: regular strength weapons and finesse weapons. If you attack with a strength-based weapon, you get your strength bonus on your attack roll, and if you use a finesse weapon, you get your dexterity bonus. If your strength bonus is higher than your dexterity bonus, you will also use your strength bonus with a finesse weapon. Now when it comes to a fight, you have to beat the armor value with an attack roll. So, if the defender has an armor value of 16, the attacker must roll a 16 or higher to hit. Again, a 1 means critical miss and 20 critical hit. With some talents or items, it is also possible to reduce the critical hit range. Thus, for example, only a 19 natural must be rolled to achieve a critical hit, while it would be 20 otherwise. For spells and magic, the whole thing works in a similar way. If it's a spell with an attack roll, the principle before described applies. However, there are also spells that use the so-called saving throw. If a caster uses such a spell, the affected target must make a saving throw against the respective spell DC. So what are saving throws? Saving throws are the armor class against spells. However, you have a separate value for each type of saving throw depending on the attribute. Each class is proficient in 2 types of these saving throws and so again receives the proficiency modifier as a bonus. Unlike the armor class, however, you do not have a default value of 10 here, but start at 0. Let us do another example. You must win a dexterity saving throw against spell DC 14. The character is proficient in dexterity saving throws and gets a +3 bonus from proficiency and a +3 bonus from a dexterity of 16. The character now rolls a 12 and gets +6 from his bonuses, so has 18 and makes a saving throw. Depending on the spell and effect, he is either not affected at all or suffers a weaker effect from the spell. Depending on your class, talents and equipment, you can of course have other bonuses, and you can also roll advantage or disadvantage on saving throws. So much for saving throws. But what is the spell DC for spellcasters? Again, there's a base value. In this case, it is 8, and it is also influenced by your primary spellcaster attribute and your proficiency modifier. This is always one of the 3 values: intelligence, wisdom, or charisma. Intelligence would be for wizard, wisdom for cleric, druid and ranger, charisma for bard, paladin, sorcerer and warlock. So much for hits. Let's talk briefly about damage and resistances. The damage of a weapon or spell depends on its type and can be found in its description. In the case of weapons, you also cause additional damage equal to your strength or skill modifier. Talents, equipments, etc. can also have a further influence here. This is not the case with spells, however. Cantrips, on the other hand, become stronger after a certain level. Their damage dices will increase, while spells, on the other hand, can be cast at a higher spell level to increase their damage or affect more targets. So that's it then. These were the basics for Baldur's Gate 3 and in some extent Dungeons and Dragons. Hope this is helpful and that you've understood everything I explained, and I wish you good fortune in the wars to come. Have fun, adventurers, and see you next time.